Zoo Wee Mama. How's it going, everybody? I'm here today with a new series that I've been wanting to do for a while, and that's going over the spotlights for the entire season. Okay, I do a lot of in-depth card review and card predictions before each card comes out every week. But a lot of times you're skipping a card, not because you necessarily think the card is bad or not fun, but you're skipping it to save for a future card, whether it's a new card or it's one of cards in a future spotlight cache, or even for a specific variant. So I really wanted to look at the spotlights as a whole and give my thoughts on all of them, which one I think have the best value in terms of cards for your collection, and which ones just have some nice variants. Okay, so for cards for your collection, it's going to more depend on the cards that are already in the game. The new cards, we simply do not know exactly how they will affect the game and for how long. Even if they're really good, really meta right away, they could easily be buffed or nerfed, and that changes things. Okay, but for the variants, we can see all of the spotlight variants, so we can definitely include all of the new card releases with that analysis. So let's go ahead, get started off with the week we are currently in, spotlights in May 7th to 14th with Nocturne. So you've probably seen Nocturne already, the 3/5 that you can move once, and when Nocturne moves, she can replace her location with a new one. Okay, so a straight up combination of Nightcrawler and Scarlet Witch, and even her stats are a combination of the cost of Nightcrawler and Scarlet Witch and their power as well. So you've probably seen her. You might have thoughts on her already. Not the worst card, not the best card. Kind of middle of the road. Has some value. Decent depending on your playstyle, what decks you use. If you like to build your own decks, she's probably a bit better than if you're just running these fully synergistic meta decks. But let's take a closer look at her spotlights. So alongside Nocturne this week, we have Kyera and Selene. Here are the variants that are in the spotlight caches as well. These are both Series 5 cards, okay? From a monetary perspective, tokens worth, this is the best tokens worth spotlight cache you can have. All three cards being 6,000 tokens. So if you're just looking to, min-max the worth of your spotlight keys and get good tokens, then it's good. But in terms of the cards themselves, again, Nocturne is new. We're going to have to see. You may already have opinions on her. Kyera and Selene are kind of similar, though. They're kind of just average. Okay, they're not amazing cards. They're not the worst. They have at least one deck or archetype that they work well in, but they're not really needed in any deck. So for me, this isn't a great week. I think the cards are just okay, but if you're missing them in your collection, you're not hurting. Okay, like I mentioned, if you don't have them, it's okay. They don't prevent you from being able to make any solid deck or specific archetype. You just replace them with a different option. And the variants, I think, are okay, but they're not amazing. Art is subjective. You might really like them much more than I do, but I just think they're kind of okay. So my ratings for the first spotlight week of this May season are pretty low. Okay, again, Nocturne kind of depends on you and what you like to play, how many decks, a variety you like to play. If you only like to play one or two specific archetypes, she's probably less valuable, but that kind of just depends. In terms of the other cards, no, they're not needed for your collection. Okay, again, they're not the worst, but the value that this would add to your collection, especially if you are like free to play or close to free to play and you don't really have too many Series 4 or Series 5 cards, I don't think it adds much value to your collection, and I just think the variants are okay. So I really would not chase after any of these unless you really need them for a deck you love. Unless you need Selene for like a Galactus Hobgoblin deck, if you need Kyera in your high evo or zoo deck, but even high evo, she's not really needed again. So I'm not too impressed with this week. So let's move on to this next week where Sage is the new card coming to Snap. So Sage is coming out May 14th. Sage is a 3/0, originally data mined as a 4-cost 1-powered card, now brought down to only 3 costs. Same ability, on reveal, +2 power for each different power among all other cards here. Now, I'm going to have a separate video for my full, thoughts and review on Sage, but just looking at her right here, we can see she's probably better being played later on in the game, which means you probably don't want too many 6-cost cards in your deck. She's going to work well in Silver Surfer. She works with Ravana. She's going to work with Mr. Negative. Okay, it's going to be in these decks where you don't mind mixing and matching cards on turns 5 and 6, okay, which does limit the archetypes she fits into. It does limit the amount of play she can see, even if she turns out to be a strong card. But when we look at the full Spotlight week, this is good. This is really, really good. Okay, we've got Sage in here, who again, kind of up in the air, might be strong, but might be kind of niche and doesn't have the most interesting ability. If she does ever get nerfed, that kind of just kills her completely because she's not super interesting or unique. But then we've got the Living Tribunal. This is a great card to have in your collection. Okay, sometimes Living Tribunal is more in the meta, sometimes he's less in the meta, but he will rotate in and out. He just has such a unique ability. It just really pops off with some archetypes if you're doing like a Hela Tribunal or just full ongoing, Iron Man Onslaught Tribunal deck. I mean, he's just so unique. He's a great tool to have in your collection, and he is Series 5, so he's a full 6,000 tokens. And this variant, this is the Ink Pulp Tribunal. Beautiful. Absolutely amazing variant. It might be Living Tribunal's best new variant. I mean, it's just great. And then this Legion. Don't even get me started on this Legion. If you are a regular to this channel, first of all, thank you very much. But second of all, you've probably heard me talk about this Legion time and time again. Legion himself is my favorite card in Snap. It's also a great card to just have in your collection. There's not really decks that need Legion in order to work unless you're going for like a, Storm lockdown with Legion. But he's just great to slide in, especially for Conquest mode. If you do build your own decks, he presents a lot of good value there. So he's just another card that's just so good in your collection, so unique. He can't really be replaced by something else directly, right? If you replace him with a different card, it's doing something very different. And this variant is the Flaviano Legion. Absolutely beautiful. I am definitely chasing after this one. This is a beautiful Spotlight cache. Okay, the cards are great. The variants are great. Legion is only Series 4, just 3,000 tokens, but it's still nice to pick them up from Spotlights if you can. Originally, when Sage was a 4-cost 1-powered card, I thought she would be the worst card of the May season, which I said made sense that they gave her a really good Spotlight week because they have the worst card, but then they pair up with 2 really appealing cards with 2 very appealing variants to make the Spotlight week worth it. But now Sage is even a bit better herself, so this is golden. So I'm also giving Sage the yellow question mark, as in maybe it's good. It kind of depends on what you play. Maybe wait and see if you're just chasing the Spotlight cache for Sage, see how she performs. But Living Tribunal is worth it to pick up. The variant's worth it to pick up. Same thing with Legion. The cards in this cache are just great value for your collection. Again, there's a difference between cards that are the best in the meta right now, okay, that are seeing play in tier 1 decks in the meta right now, and cards that are tier 1 for your collection, because the meta rotates. Second Dinner, even if no card seems overpowered, Second Dinner will nerf cards at the top to purposely rotate the meta. So you need cards that are valuable, that can, go in multiple decks, that are just fun to play, and that you can just keep using regardless of the meta. Okay, those are the best cards to have in your collection. So Tribunal and Legion are great, and the variants, again, art subjective. I think they're absolutely amazing. So I honestly think this week, May 14th to 21st, is the best Spotlight week of the May season, but we've still got 2 more to talk about. Coming out May 21st, we have Namora alongside Scar and Black Knight in Spotlights. Namora is now a 5-cost 6-powered card. She was originally data mined at 5 power, with the on-reveal ability to give plus 5 power to each of your cards alone at another location. So max cap here of a 5-cost 16-power card. If she does trigger and add plus 5 to 2 other cards on different locations. But again, same thing with Sage. We can tell she's going to be kind of niche. Okay, this isn't a card you can just put in any deck. So you're going to have to wait to see how good she actually is, how strong. But regardless of that, we know she's going to be a bit niche. Okay, she's not going to provide a ton of value to your collection in the way that you can just put her in any deck that she's great for, just deck building, homebrews. She's not about that, okay? But let's look at the spotlight as a whole. So we've got another week where all 3 cards are Series 5, okay? So 6,000 tokens. Again, if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck, just in terms of the value of a Spotlight Key to token ratio, this is one of the weeks to do it. Okay, Scar is a former season pass card for the January season. I think this might be the first time he's actually being featured in Spotlight Caches. So if you did skip buying the January season pass, and you probably haven't bought Scar for 6,000 tokens because he's not really worth it, this may be your first chance to pick him up. So that alone may provide some value, but I really don't think he's worth chasing after. There are a ton of just big power cards. Second Dinner is also just releasing like a stat stick every month, a card that just has kind of a boring ability, but it's just good stats for the cost. Okay, just big power. The more of them that get released, the more of them that get replaced. Okay, there's so many alternatives, so many options. You don't need to run Scar. You can run Blob. You can run Red Hulk. You can run Magneto, right? There's just so many big just power cards. He's not needed in that sense. Then we've got Black Knight, who's pretty strong, but just tied to discard. I mean, literally just tied to discard. Is very good in discard, but if you don't play it, he's not good for you. He's not good for your collection if you don't play discard. If you do play discard, he's great for your collection. So this is another one that really depends on you, the decks you like to play, and what other cards you have in your collection. Maybe you're new to Series 3 and you don't have Hela yet. Well, if you don't have Hela yet, you probably don't want to be playing too much discard, okay? So it's just one of these cards that really comes down to playstyle. The variants here I think are fine. I don't think they're amazing. I don't think they're horrible. I just think they're kind of okay. The Scar one is kind of like emo grungy, but so are like 2 or 3 of his other Datamine variants. They're just like emo and grungy. I think Black Knight has better variants, and the Namora one is her only variant to start, I believe, and that one's not bad. So my ratings for this May 21st Spotlight Week is that Namora, again, we don't know, it's questionable, but I think she might be bad. It's possible she is the worst card of the season, but regardless of if she's the worst or second worst or whatever, she's going to be very niche. So even if she turns out to be good, you may not actually be able to get much value out of her. Okay, so wait and see. But with Scar, again, I don't think he's worth it. I don't think he's worth chasing after. Even if you miss him in January, I don't think you miss out on much. And Black Knight, it depends. Okay, so if you don't play discard, there's not a card here you need to chase after. If you do play discard, maybe you chase after Black Knight, but you still don't need to chase after the others. So the cards here don't add much value to your collection, in my opinion, so I'm giving that 1 star. And the variants, they're just okay. They're fine. Nothing that stands out. Nothing crazy. And I think the characters, at least Scar and Black Knight, do have other variants that are better. To talk about the last week of the May season, we're looking at May 28th, where we have Sasquatch in Spotlight Caches alongside Havoc and Nirvana Renslayer. Sasquatch is a 6-cost, 10-powered card with the ability that he costs 1 less for each card you played last turn. Again, I was talking about how Second Dinner has just been releasing at least 1 stat stick each month. That's Sasquatch. He's just a big 10-powered card. How much he's going to cost? Well, it depends on how much you played last turn, how many cards you played. Okay, if you played 2, then he's a 410. If turn 5, you played 3 cards, turn 6, he's a 310. But you can make him a 210, a 110. He's kind of like Mockingbird, just has different requirements. He also just gets countered by Mobius. He might be the best card of the month. Okay, stat sticks recently have been the best card of their respective seasons. And while that sounds great, it also means they might just get nerfed, because if they're really good for everyone because they're easy to use, easy to play and understand. So it might just get nerfed, and then it's a boring card that would be nerfed, and now it's just not really adding any value. So it's kind of risky. Even if you think this would be the best card of the month, it's a bit risky given how long is going to be the best card of the month for. Now, to talk about the Spotlight Week as a whole, we've got Sasquatch, a pretty good variant here. I actually like this one. I like kind of the background, the color gradients there, and just Sasquatch himself. I think he looks cool. I think animated, it might show kind of like the snow or wind moving. It might look really nice, actually. Then we've got Havoc and Nirvana. They're both Series 4. They're 3,000 tokens. So in terms of token value, this is an extremely low value week. In fact, this is the lowest week we're going to see because all new cards are being released straight into Series 5, okay? Gone are the days where we're seeing cards automatically released into Series 4. That's not happening. They're all coming out Series 5. So pairing a new card with 2 Series 4 cards is actually the lowest token value you can have in a Spotlight week now in Marvel Snap. So that's already low, and this is kind of opposing the Sage week where I said Sage looked like those cards were good. Sasquatch might be really good, so maybe they paired him with some lower value cards because the Spotlight's already appealing just because of Sasquatch, and he's going to be strong in the meta, even though he's a little boring. Havoc is a fun card, but he's not super strong. There's a deck running around right now where you do play him with Ravonna. Maybe you get Professor X in there. He can add some value, but he's not worth chasing after. Okay, he's just not. Ravonna, on the other hand, although she is only 3,000 tokens, she's good. Okay, again, she makes that deck work where you are playing Havoc and Professor X. You can play her in a Mr. Negative deck. You can play her in Cerebro 3. She's got a couple different homes, and she is very hard to replace, especially now that Zabu has been nerfed to where Zabu's an on-reveal. Ravonna is the 2-cost, energy-reducing, ongoing card. I mean, she kind of has that spot to herself now because Zabu's been nerfed, so that actually increases her value a bit. She is hard to replace. If you find a deck that runs Ravonna and you don't have her, you're going to have some trouble playing that deck, okay? In terms of the variants, I'm not super hype on them. You know, some people might like them. They're just not my style, okay? I think they're fine. I think they're okay, but for me, they're pretty low value just because it's not my style. So my ratings for this final week have Sasquatch, again, unknown. We're going to have to wait and see, but he's going to be good, at least for now, at least until he gets nerfed. He's going to be really strong. He's going to be in the meta. Cards like this have to be good in order to be played because they're boring. If they're boring and they're not super powerful, no one has a reason to play them, okay? So they have to be boring but strong. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. Havoc, again, he's not worth chasing after, but Ravonna might be, okay? So cards for the week. It's okay. You could even argue maybe 3-star value, but we got to wait and see on Sasquatch. So I'm really just looking at Havoc and Ravonna, where Havoc isn't worth it, but Ravonna I think is kind of worth it. And she can help you with deck building. Variants are subjective. For me, it's not too appealing, but for you it may be. Especially this Ravonna one. This is the Rian Gonzalez. You may really like that one. I think it's nice artwork in that sense, just not my style of what I would play. So I have it low, but I can see variants being higher. But when we look at the month as a whole, okay, this first week we are currently in, at the time I'm releasing this video, we've got the week of Nocturne, and I think it's a pretty mid Spotlight week. I don't think there's anything too crazy jumping out here. Now, for Sage, it's a bit different. If you do need the Living Tribunal or Legion, great time to pick them up. If you already have those cards, it's really only an appealing week if you want the variants. I have these cards, but I really want the Legion variant specifically, so for me, it's very appealing. Okay, if you're not interested in the variants though, and you already have the cards, then just wait and see how Sage performs. If she is good, make sure she's good in decks that you like playing, because I think she's a little niche. Then we go into the week May 21st with Namora. I think this might actually be the worst Spotlight week of the season, just because I don't have high hopes for Namora. Scar's not seen any play, and he's boring. And Black Knight is just very niche. Okay, so this might actually be the worst Spotlight week of the season, even if you are like missing these cards. And then the last week, kind of hit or miss, depending on how Sasquatch does. If you do already have Havoc and Ravonna, because they're only 3,000 tokens, that's another thing, right? It is pretty low value. You could just buy Ravonna for 3,000 tokens and not risk getting Havoc or getting the Havoc variant if you're not interested in it. So, these are my thoughts on the May season, the Season of Exiles in Marvel Snap, all the Spotlight weeks. Let me know what you think of them. Let me know which of these weeks you're most excited for, which variants you're most excited for. If you really disagree with any of my opinions on these variants or on the cards and the value they provide to your collection, not just the strength in the meta, but the value they provide to your collection, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, until then, stay positive. I'll see you next time.